It's y'all.
Ashe Gems. Welcome to the Empress Empire podcast. I'm your host with the most, the Sacred Empress or Shanti. And today I am here with a special guest. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Leena D, aka Leena Darling. If you follow me on TikTok, y'all be talking to two screens today, so don't mind me. But I am Leena D. I consider myself a spiritual coach, a spiritual leader, and someone who is just willing to give information to you guys about the healing journey based off of my experience and just to connect and share space with y'all. So what's up? We in here. I'm excited. Thank you for
Yes.
having me.
Thank you for joining.
What's
This
up?
is amazing. This whole week, y'all know we've been doing special guests all week, and continuing up until I don't even know. We just gonna be going at it, for as long as spirit allows us to. So I just want to thank you for pulling up, and being a part of this episode. The healing journey is very important to me. I value it because it's really shifted a lot of things for me, and I don't know where I would be had I not decided to start healing and start working on myself because
Um,
Lord, I be telling my mama, like, you better be lucky that I ain't out here going crazy or doing no wild shit. Cause, with trauma, it can lead you to so many different directions and paths. And, it's just so important that we give ourselves, more time to process the things that we've gone through. Especially since, growing up, I know for me, nobody was like, hey, like, you're gonna have trauma in your life. Like, you might want to
right.
focus on that. You might want to, when you get older, you might want to look at that a little bit and, do some reflecting
Right.
and so on. So, now I'm in that space where I want to be that person for other people, even if it is just planting a seed. So that's what we're doing here today, y'all. Just planting a few seeds here and there for those that, are on their healing journey and may feel like they're alone in certain parts of their journey. Cause I know for me, when I was embarking on my journey, I was like, oh my God, am I supposed to be this damn miserable? Am I supposed to be this damn sad? And,
Right.
I'm like, what the
That part.
hell's going on? You think that healing's supposed to be, this magical experience, which it is, but it doesn't always look that way. Um,
Yeah.
and that's why I wanted to do today's episode, because when you had mentioned like the healing journey and stuff like that, I was like, yep, that's it, that's what we're talking about.
That's
She's
what
like, she's like, we
I'm
could talk
telling
about
you.
anything, but I'm like, no, this is it for Thursday. So we just want to plant a few seeds here and there, give y'all some insight and some clarity about our personal experience, and just let y'all know that y'all are not alone. We're all going through
Word.
something, and it's good to know that when going through these things and going through these changes and transformations, that you got people that are understanding as to where you're at in your life. So love you guys. We about to get into it. We about to start
Let's do it.
unpacking some
Let's do
shit.
it. I hope y'all are
So
ready. I would say like during the conversation, I don't mean to cut you off,
no,
but
you're
like if
good.
y'all want to take note, I'm a note taker. Like I'm a post-it note mommy, like definitely take some notes during the conversation because like she said, it's a lot of tips and tricks that people don't really speak about when they're going into this. And I know that when I first started watching videos about the healing journey, it really helped me to jot things down every once in a while that would kind of give me a sense of validation. Like, okay, this is normal. Like, like this is to be expected, and other people have gone through it as well. So get your notepad, get your post-it, your sticky notes out. We about to dive into this.
All right, come on. So, what's something that you feel in your journey that you wish you had sooner?
Ooh, what's something I feel like in my journey I wish I had like grace for myself, a little bit
Mm,
more grace on this journey. I beat myself up a lot in the beginning of this healing journey. I was like, why would I let people treat me like that? Why was I going for that? Why was I acting like that? Why was I in those spaces? And it's still a journey of grace, of giving myself that grace and not resenting myself for the places that I stayed, and kind of putting myself in harm's way subconsciously. So at this point right now, I'm able to give myself a little bit more grace. But I remember a time where I would make a bad decision and I would just be like, "Oh, you're so stupid. Like, why would you do that? Like, them people using you, they abusing you. You put yourself through that. It's your fault." And it was like, and it made it harder to heal because not only do I feel bad about what's going on, I'm the one making me feel bad. Like, it's me, it's no one else around me saying it. It's literally me. And when it's you against you, it's like, how do you win in that battle other than just kind of removing that negative voice in your mind and just being like, you know what, yeah, we did that, but but we got past it. We learned the lesson. We did what we needed to do, so that definitely grace. You have to have it on this. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna remember some mistakes that you made, and you're gonna be like, now, girl, now, come on, now, and you're gonna be mad all over again. But you have to also realize that without that, without going through that, you would not have been at this point. Like those decisions and those experiences got you to where you're at. So it's not a sense of, oh, I can't stand myself, but just like, I'm glad that I grew, you know?
Right.
So definitely,
That's a
definitely
big
that
one. That's such a big one, and I feel like a lot of people, we don't naturally have that for ourselves, we don't naturally have that grace because a lot of us grow up insecure or, we got people always setting these expectations for us, so, sometimes having that grace and holding space for ourselves is damn near impossible because the world is always at us. The world is always, "You gotta do this, you gotta do this, you can't be emotional, you can't do" it's
especially
hard.
as a Black woman, like you can't
Right.
make no mistakes because everything is your fault.
Mhm.
Whatever mistake you make, ain't nobody giving us no grace out here. So
That's a
if
fact.
anybody can give it to us, it got to be you. It has to
Right.
be you first and foremost. Yeah,
That's
you
so
can't
heavy.
expect anyone else. Yeah, for real.
I love that you said that too because, we're looked at as if we're supposed to be so strong and, we can't be sad. We can't show no emotion because now we weak and, it's fucked up. It's really fucked up because we know we live in times where everybody gets to be sensitive but us. Everybody gets to be sad but us. Everybody gets to be angry but us. Because it's like it's cool when they do it. It's a problem when I do
Right, it's a problem. Exactly,
it. Like,
exactly,
wow,
and it's crazy that yeah, it's crazy that Black women are not, awarded that because we do go through the most. Like, you know what I mean? If anybody should have agency to be expressive or emotional, it should be us because of everything that it is that we go through. But it's kind of just like, oh, well, y'all been handling, it, so you better handle it. And if you don't handle it properly, we're gonna make it a you thing and not like a lack of support thing, which is which is another thing that I feel like I wish I had on my like more support, which is why I'm glad that
Mhm.
we're able to do this podcast for people
Yeah,
definitely right now because it's very few out here. Not a lot of people understand when you decide to start healing, especially if they themselves have not made that choice or decision. So it can be very isolating, just
right.
like being a Black woman sometimes, like really
Yeah.
isolating, definitely.
Yeah, that's a fact. But I'm
Yeah,
I'm so happy that, even as Black women, we are healing, because within our community is something that we weren't really given the opportunity to do for so long. So seeing so many of us take this, approach with our lives and make these changes and break these generational curses, it makes me really happy because, we didn't have that right at one point, but now we do. And I always tell myself, like, you're doing a lot of things your ancestors didn't even get the opportunity to do.
oh, right,
And that's why I try to be more, I try to express more gratitude because I'm like, girl, they wasn't out here on iPhones and on Zooms and
right,
like, it's a luxury to heal. And I think that, doing that, it's inspiring to those around you because you got people like, oh, were you so happy all of a sudden? Like,
right.
it's like it takes me a while to get here. It took me years to get to this point. So, seeing me happy after all these years, like people, it's crazy because I notice how people will see like, oh, you're happy, but nobody saw that I was sad. Nobody saw
Come
that I
on
was
now.
depressed. Nobody saw that I was angry or
No.
hurting or, whatever the case may be. So people gonna see your glow, but a lot of people won't help you
Mhm.
get that. A lot of people won't help you get to that point in your life. And that's why it's so important to have grace for yourself and to be patient with yourself too, because this isn't a walk in the park. Okay. This is like walking in the jungle because you don't know what's
Right.
coming towards you. You don't know what you about to be unpacking, what you about to feel. And that's why I wanted to talk about the ups and the downs, because I feel like, yes, healing is a beautiful thing and it is a luxury. And, we get to overcome so many different things, but this ain't easy. Okay. I don't know who told people that this was just gonna be just a quick switcheroo, but it's not. And to be honest, it's still something you're gonna be experiencing this for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? Choosing to heal.
Oh my God.
Yes, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of patience, because this isn't something where I decided to heal. Now I'm fully healed. Now I can just walk through life and be happy. No, this is work. It's a work in progress. You're a work in progress. So it's like, once you start to look at yourself and see that you are your own project, and you get to, decide where you go from here, it gives you a lot more freedom. But sometimes with that freedom, you don't know what to do with it. You don't know what to do with all that freedom sometimes. So, it's where you have to get to know yourself a lot more, and really pull back those layers, honestly, because, the world's always trying to tell us who we are, and we got to figure that out for ourselves. So what was the hardest thing for you on your journey, to overcome?
The hardest thing to overcome was like realizing that I wasn't who I was because I'm like was naturally that person. I was who I was because of trauma that I dealt with. I was who I was because of the things that I dealt with, and I wasn't walking in my authenticity. You said like healing is a luxury, right? So healing is something that you have to be intentional about. And I feel like at a point in my life, even with me wanting to heal, I couldn't because of the people that I was around. Like it truly is a luxury. Like you really have to be intentional and put hello, cut it out. Sorry. You have to my dog, y'all I ain't a human or nothing, but yeah, yeah, it's a luxury. You have to really be intentional about it. And it was kind of hard for me to she took me all off my train of thought. Girl,
They will do
come on
that
now.
to you.
What's the question again? Because
Um,
man,
what was the
it was
hardest
one
part for
second.
you within your journey to
Right.
overcome?
Right. And then meeting this version of myself that I knew was not me because I felt so uncomfortable in her. And like really having to pretty much kind of turn into a whole new person or heal into a whole new person. That was hard because here I am with this identity for the past, like I started my healing journey in 2017. So I think I was 23 or something. I'm 27 now. Here I was with 23 years worth of this person that I am, and something in me is telling me, like, oh no, that's not you though. That's not you. Like that's not who you really are. There's something else. There's another person underneath all of that, trauma and coping mechanisms and unhealthy addictions and stuff. And it was hard to not have an identity or to realize that your identity is rooted in things that is not really your fault. Like you didn't take that on. I didn't ask for trauma. I didn't ask for anything that happened to me, but it happened, and now it's my responsibility to now pull myself up out of the mud and figure out who it is that I really am without, like you said, any help. Like people, they love to, you said they love to see you smiling, but they don't know what it is that you went through. Like no one noticed that I wasn't who I really was. No one noticed that I was dealing with identity issues, but they notice now that I'm like, out there and bright and and sharing my story. And it's just like, but you don't know how that happened. And it was hard to get to that point because it's like you're starting from a fresh canvas. You're starting with absolutely nothing. And from there, you got to be your own artist and just, start doing what it is that you got to do. And it's not always easy. It's very lonely. It's very confusing because you're like, yo, it was a point in time where I was like, who am I? Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm in my 20s. I should probably know. At the time, my favorite song was 20 something by SZA. Shout out to SZA. And I resonated so much. I was like, I ain't got nothing. Like, I ain't nothing in my name. I don't know who I am. Like, and it hit me. But then that was the turning point where it was just like, you know what? But we can start from here. We can start at this point and really build ourselves up. But those at the beginning, it was hard because I had to, shed skin, which is what a lot of people I think they're afraid of during the healing journey is leaving that past identity behind and really starting on this path to figuring out your new one. And it's like you said, walking in a jungle, in a dark jungle at that. in the middle of the night with like a bloody suit on. So you're just like you're susceptible and vulnerable to anything, to your mind, to outside voices and stuff. It's scary, but it's definitely worth it. And I feel like if some people understood that, like you said, there's glory at the end of the story, they'll be more inspired to, not shy away from the healing that needs to be done, but really kind of lean into it and be like, I may go through this, it's gonna be hard, I'm gonna cry, but I see that other people have done it and they're happy with it. And a lot of people at the beginning of their healing, they're just looking for that happiness. So, if you know that you have an end goal in mind, you just start with a blank canvas and do what it is that you need to do to really learn who you are. So yeah, that was the hardest part, that fresh new identity that came with healing. Like, I don't know who this girl is, but we gonna roll with it. We gonna see what she's trying to do. So yeah, facts.
Yes, I love that. And starting with a blank canvas is such a great way to put it because a lot of people, you know, they don't realize like you're the artist, like you are your own creator in a sense. You get to decide who you are, you get to decide what career path you walk into, like you get to make these decisions for yourself. And when you feel like
Mhm.
you don't have that power, it's easy for people to take that away from you and be like, "Oh, well, you need to be doing this. You need to wear this. You need to act like and talk like this." Um,
Mhm.
when that puts you in a box, it limits you, it makes you feel like, "Oh, well, I can only be these things, so I can't really design this canvas the way that I want to because I only got these four colors." But when you realize you
Right.
could mix these colors together and you could pour a little of this
Right.
and pour a little bit of that and make something else, it's like,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to work with what you got, and I think a lot of us don't realize, like, even if we feel like we don't have anything or nobody or whatever, we can make something out of that. And that's why with the healing journey, it's gave me so much hope. It's made me feel like,
Mhm.
okay, like, I may have not grew up with, people listening to me or, that emotional, mature friend or parent or whoever to show me how to be emotional, how to process and express my anger and express my frustrations. I didn't have that. But somehow, some way, I was able to align with people that, were able to hear me out, align with the therapist that was able to, show me that my emotions are valid and I don't have to
Mhm.
suppress them to make myself or other people comfortable. And I think that's one of the biggest things about the healing journey is that it's uncomfortable. It don't feel good. It doesn't feel like,
It doesn't.
oh, magic. It doesn't feel good all the time. And, that was something for
No.
me that I had to get used to. I had to get used to that discomfort because the more I got used to it, the more I was like, I like this. This is motivating me. This is
Yeah,
pushing
right?
me. Now I'm motivated. Now I want to heal more. I want to do this. I want to do that. So it really does pull you out of your comfort zone. And it helps you reflect more. And the more you start reflecting, the more you do get to know yourself. And the more you get to know yourself, the happier you become because now we're getting rid of the
Mhm.
shit that don't make us happy. Now we're getting rid of the people that, are preying on our downfall, and only want to
Mhm.
use us and abuse us. So, the more
Mhm.
you get to know yourself, the more you fall in love with yourself, you'll and watch everything around you that don't serve you,
Mhm.
just leave. It's either gonna leave
Right.
or you gonna spot it and have to do what you gotta do to get rid of it. But
Yeah.
that's probably the hardest part for a lot of people though, is having to release those things. And I love how you mentioned like, it's hard for us to let go of that old part of ourselves because, after that we don't feel like, okay, well, what now? Like well, what do we do now? But leaving that old part of you behind, you're not abandoning yourself. You're not, losing yourself, but it's really the part of the process because if you keep holding on to your pain and your trauma as if it's not hurting you, then you won't be able to step outside of that and see it for what it is rather than, this comfort or illusion that you've made it out to be. So, excuse me, I'm actually happy that you brought that up because, it's the comfort that keeps us
Right.
in that suffering, and it
And
don't feel good all the
I'm sorry.
time. It don't feel good all the time. It might be
It
easy to
doesn't.
escape and be like, "Oh, I'm good. I don't want to focus on my healing right now," which we get to do that. We get to
Get to
decide,
that,
like,
yeah.
I don't feel like doing no healing, no shadow work today. Like, I'm
Right.
good. Like, I need a break. We can do that. And that's another thing that I love. It's not, an everyday thing. I mean, every day you're going to learn things and you're going to see things in your experience, but you don't always have to choose every single day to focus solely on your healing because you're going to have to take a break once in a while. You don't want to burn yourself out,
Balance is
and
very
drain yourself, but you also don't want to just be stuck, all the time either. So it's all about balance too. It's one of the most important things along the healing journey is having balance. So make sure that y'all are taking time to just relax. If y'all are surrounded by
sweet.
water, go see some water. Go put your feet in some water, or go to the
Yeah.
spa. Like, treat yourself to these things because healing is a luxury, but taking care of yourself and doing things that you enjoy are also a luxury as well that you deserve. Um, but yeah, I love this conversation because I really do feel like,
Yeah.
a lot of people only see the good side of the healing journey. And I feel like, for everybody out there, everybody that's listening, you deserve to heal. You may not want to heal, but you do deserve that. You deserve the opportunity to, feel. You deserve the opportunity to reflect on your trauma and understand that you're not your trauma, because a lot of us, we think that what we go through is an estimate to what we're worthy of, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
that's is false. Don't let people make you feel like the abuse that you encountered, the situations that you went through, the circumstances, the people, whatever it is that happened to you, it does not define you. And that was something that stuck with me when my therapist said it, because I was like, ooh, I felt all that weight on me just drop. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, holding on to all these expectations, thinking that, I can't have the finer things in life because of the situations that I had to go through, you know what I'm saying? But, that does not determine your worth. And at the end of the day, you are an abundant being. Okay.
Hello.
So regardless of what you've gone through, that doesn't even equate to your worth because you're worthy of so much more than what you've settled for what you've endured. And I think that with the healing journey, it really does empower people, and I think that's always been my focus. And that's always been like the position that I felt like I played in people's lives was to empower them, to speak life
Yeah.
into them, because it really does show, my progress because I wasn't speaking into myself. I wasn't saying affirmations. If anything, I'm saying affirmations that go against myself. I'm like,
I
bitch, you're
love
ugly as
it.
hell. You're
Listen.
stupid. Why would you do that? Oh my gosh. I would say so many hurtful things to myself because I was mad. But I
Mm.
wasn't mad at the people that hurt me. I'm mad at myself because I'm like, oh, you the reason, or you did this, you did that, not knowing that this pain and this anger that I held so deep in my heart was for someone else. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't me that I was mad at. It wasn't me that I was hating at the time. It was the people that hurt me, the people that made me feel unworthy, or the people that used me, whatever the case may be. So what's one bit of advice you would give to somebody that's starting their healing journey?
I think what you said earlier about the balance, like balance
Mhm.
is key when you start. I mean, you could do whatever you want to do, but just jumping right up in there and thinking like, oh, okay, I'm gonna start with shadow work. You could go ahead and start with shadow work if you want to, baby. But I don't know, maybe you should reconsider. Maybe you should take some time, like you said, to just go sit, get to know yourself.
Mhm.
At the beginning of my healing journey, like you said, it's funny. Like I've always been drawn to bodies of water, but I feel like when I first went through my first spiritual awakening, like I kept finding myself at bodies of water and not doing anything other than just kind of just like looking out into the water. And at the time, like, I didn't really have a deep relationship with spirit, but I realized now that I was getting downloads about what it is that I should be doing, like the journey that I'm about to embark on. So it was very key for me to like take it step by step, like really not try to dive into everything, but just kind of be led by spirit as far as what it is that I need to be doing. Because when you try to take on everything, you're gonna get overwhelmed. And that's why people shy away from it. That's why people are usually just like, I don't got time for that healing stuff, or I'm fine the way that I am, because it does like it can be overwhelming. So you have to be able to do the balance, like at the time, like when I first started my spiritual journey, I was smoking, like drinking a lot. And I felt like spirit was trying to tell me, all right, now I need you to slow down. And I was like, but this is hard. So maybe I'm gonna up it up a little bit, like and just like going at my own pace over time, I was like, all right, I don't really need too much of this anymore. Like you have to pace yourself. Don't don't think that this is like like you what is it, like it's not a race, it's a marathon. You feel me? Like you're gonna reach certain milestones and points in your life, and then you can tackle that as it comes to you. But if you was to take everything on and just jump into the heavy stuff first, you won't know how to deal with that because you haven't prepared correctly. So preparation, I feel like, is key, and the main preparation is really just like getting to yourself, like getting quiet, like really going into yourself. If you journal and see what feelings come out so you know where to start. Like I'm a journaler. I like to journal. Like I said, I write a lot. I have journals from back to when I was like 13, 14 years old. And I read some of the things that I wrote, and I'm and like it was ended up being some of the things that I tackled in therapy. I like that you brought up therapy as well.
Mhm.
And I'm like, wow, like my higher self was always telling me that this was an issue or that this is something that I needed to address, but I didn't have the tools to do so. So a lot of times it's just like going with the flow. If you're called to write. If you're called to go out in nature, go out in nature, put your feet in some grass, like, but don't take everything on at once. It's going to overwhelm you, and it could throw you into like to a point where you just feel stuck, like you said, and not want to do anything at all. And you
Mhm.
don't want to get to that point in your journey because then it'll start feeling like you're going backwards because everything is hitting you at one time, and you're just like no, 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 instead of just being like presented with one thing, and it's like, all right, yeah, let me deal with my childhood issues right now, and then go through that, and then through your childhood you start realizing that you had some abandonment issues in your childhood. All
Mhm.
right, cool, let's approach the abandonment, but it's a step-by-step process. And if you feel like, yeah, I'm just going to jump into the most horrible thing that ever happened to me first, yeah, I can guarantee you're going to jump back. Okay, you're gonna
Yeah.
go backwards because it's not easy. So you definitely have to pace yourself. You definitely have to have that balance. And like we said earlier, have patience with yourself as well. You're not going to There was a lot of memories that I was only able to unlock in therapy. And it was kind of frustrating because I'm like, why don't I remember this? I'm like, like the trauma brain works differently. And that's
Mhm.
something that you really have to, like there'll be some things that you can't heal from because you don't remember them. It's going to be
Mm.
some things that you can't heal from because you don't see it as trauma. Like, you have to have a level of this is Lauren Hill interview that I like, or like I think it was a speech, and she was talking about how we go through seasons of learning and then seasons of mastery. Like that's how your life
Mhm.
goes. Like you can be at a dark point in your life, and that's when you're learning kind of like what it is that you need to accomplish. And then as you're going up, you're mastering that lesson. So I've
Mhm.
used that in my journey a lot with just like when I'm feeling down or I'm feeling like overwhelmed, I'm like, what am I learning? Like what is it that I'm like, hopping into right now? And then I might journal, or I don't go do therapy anymore. But at the time, I would reach out to my therapist and just tell her how I'm feeling, and then I will be
Mhm.
met with like, okay, well, let's talk about this. I heard that you said something about abandonment issues. Where does that stem from? And like that's how it was able to branch out, and I was able to really tackle things. So it's very important that you just pace yourself on this. Like, do not think that you can be superwoman and take on it. Pace yourself. And like we said, this is not you're gonna be on this journey for the rest of your life. There's no rush. Like I think I've gone through about three spiritual awakenings. I'm in one right now for real. Like if we're really talking about it, my first one when I was 23, like once I kind of got happy after it was done, I was like, okay, yeah, that was easy. Like I'm glad I did that work, and then got thrown into another, like like it's a journey, and you just have to kind of roll with the punches and just be as present as possible. You can't think about, oh, when I get to the end of my journey, I'll be happy. No, find happiness right here where you're at this
Right.
point. Yeah, like you said, you're worthy of whatever it is that you want at any point of this journey. It's never like, oh, when I get to that next one, then I'm gonna be worthy. No, you're worthy right now. Like for whatever
Exactly.
it is that you want, you're an abundant being, and you can manifest anything into your life just by really believing in yourself, and just by, like I said, having patience with the journey that you're on. So For real, y'all. Like if anyone's listening, like I know y'all listen, I see y'all, what's up? But definitely that pace yourself on this journey. Definitely you utilize the support around you. I would very much 100% suggest therapy if you can, or just like a trusted friend as well that y'all can, bounce ideas off of each other, or like really dive into things, and then utilize, like, like how I found the Sacral Empress on Instagram. Utilize the platforms that you have: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, because there's other people out there that have gone through it, and it can give you that sense of information that you need to embark on that lesson. So for fact, yeah. Whew,
Love
that was a
that.
lot. I said
Love that.
yeah.
You said what needed to be said. Okay. I
Mhm.
love it. Thank you for that too.
Yes,
You know,
definitely.
even with these conversations, regardless of, how far I've come in my journey, there's still things that I need to hear. So I appreciate you for extending that wisdom on over, because I needed it. And I feel like, in these moments, in these times where, we do feel like, we don't have nobody, um it is important to have someone that you can confide in, because therapy was one of those things that I wasn't never really against it. Like I wasn't like, oh, fuck therapy, they don't care, like, because there are
Right,
people out here that don't believe that therapy works. um but I think that you have to be open to it. I think that's one of the biggest things, is being open to it, and obviously finding a therapist that actually cares. um
right,
I don't really understand why people would get in that profession and have ulterior motives, but some
right.
people, you'd be surprised, don't
Yeah.
really have good intentions.
People are
But
crazy.
I was blessed enough to find a therapist. I had a miscarriage in 2020, so it was one of those things where I didn't know what to do with myself after that. It was just kind of like, well, this happened. Like,
Yeah,
what the
yeah,
fuck do I do now? And somebody that I was friends with at the time had suggested I go to therapy, and I was just like, I mean, at this point, I might as well, because I honestly didn't know
right,
what to do with myself. I kind of got back into my depressive state. I was like, well, I don't know what's gonna happen with this, but I gave it a try. I gave therapy a chance, and it came with a lot of unpacking my trauma. And I mean, the first day in therapy, I'm telling this man everything about my life. I'm like, I'm about to just lay it all out right here, right now. I'm tired of this shit. I don't want to keep
oh,
going through this. I'm about to tell you what's going on with me. He
it's
was just
so
like,
awkward sometimes.
this man was
It's
like,
like
oh
you don't
my
even know
God.
this person. Here's everything. Take it and
I'm
tell
like,
me what to
here
do
is
with
everything
it. Like,
from day one all the way till now. Here's everything that I've gone through. And it was one of those moments where, unpacking all that trauma is very intense. And it's something that I don't necessarily regret, but I wish I would have took it, session by session, rather than trying to unleash the beast immediately. Because then those repressed emotions started to come up, and then the pain that I was feeling started to show up in my body in different ways. So it's one of those things where when you are ready, you're gonna want to take it step by step, because when you try to sit here and just throw it all out all at once, it's going to hit you the same way you put it out. So just be mindful of that, because I didn't realize how intense repressing your emotions can be when you start to release them. And I have found myself spiraling out of control and having different episodes where I'm lashing out, I'm blacking out. I ended up having to go to a mental hospital because my family like called the police on me, thinking I done went crazy. But all I needed in that moment was just for people to,
to
I just needed to
listen.
calm down,
Yeah,
because,
yeah,
in those moments, it's like, you don't know what's what anymore. Your
right,
life, it's a lie now. Like everything everybody ever told you, everything that you ever told yourself, it's like it's a lie. Like, I didn't know what to do in that moment. And in that moment, I kind of allowed the intrusive thoughts to win.
right.
And it put me in a really bad position. But that time within the mental hospital, it gave me time to reflect and calm my own nerves down, because something that I also had to learn along my journey is that nobody is going to fix my problems. Nobody is going to,
No,
come in and save the day. Nobody, not even my therapist, like nobody is coming
right,
in to make this easier for me. If anything, these people making it harder, because you
right,
got people that don't listen, or, can't really comprehend what you're saying. You could be telling them word for word what it is that's wrong with you, and they'll still act like they don't understand because a lot of people are not emotionally mature. And that's one of the things that when it comes to healing, that's the main thing that we're healing is our emotions. Because we're taught to bite our tongues when things bother us because
Yeah.
we can't talk back, or we trying to be
Right.
grown or
Right.
whatever. Like it feels like we're challenging people when we
And
start to be emotional. Um, and it's one of those things where people will say, like, oh, being emotional is immature, or you're too sensitive, or whatever the case may be. But you're human
that's
and you're
so
here to experience these emotions, regardless of if your mama like it or not, or your cousins like it or
right.
not. It's an experience for all of us. We all have to experience it one form or fashion. So with anger, my anger was suppressed. I'm thinking that being angry is bad, especially with the angry Black woman stigma. I thought that I had to keep the peace. I had to protect other people's feelings, including my own, because if I get angry, then I might want to punch somebody or I might want to break some shit. So, when it comes to anger, that's one of the biggest emotions that shamed. And I feel like when I
Mm-hmm.
had started to get
It's one
into
of the most
therapy,
natural.
and it sucks because people make us feel like we can't be angry. Like anger is just such a, oh, you're gonna do this or that when you're angry. Like, no, like
Yeah.
there are so many different ways that we can process our emotions, but no one's giving us the healthy way. We seeing all these dangerous ways to, express our emotions. You got people out here fighting, you got people out here killing each other because they're angry when all we need is somebody to just fucking listen to us. That's all we need. If we could have conversations like this, it wouldn't
The
always be a
outlet. Yeah.
need to go out and create chaos because somebody made you upset. You know what I'm saying? So it's so important to validate your
But
own
also,
emotions because that's what I had expected from my mom, my dad, my sibling. That's what I had expected. I expected them to know how to validate my emotions, but they didn't because nobody taught them. So I had to teach myself. So along your healing journey, you got to be your own coach. You got to be your own
yeah.
best friend. You got to be your own lover. Like you got to play all these different roles to yourself. So if you decide that you just want to lay it out on the table, please reconsider. Like please, please,
Right.
please reconsider because you got to play all these different roles. You got all these responsibilities. It's a lot. One thing at a
Yeah.
time is how I see it. Focus on one thing at a time. If you want to start with your emotions, cool, start with your emotions because that's going to open up a door to something else, and then it's just this constant cycle of you unlocking things that you didn't even know was going on because you started with one thing rather than being like me. That's why I told y'all what I was going through so that y'all don't repeat. Do not repeat what I did because
Yeah.
as good as it felt in that moment, what I put out into the universe came back to me in some way.
Mhm.
And I didn't really, think too much about that in the moment because I'm like, I'm about to get all this shit off my chest right now. I'm sick of hurting. But, it puts us in a position where, we have to surrender and allow God to step in because we feel like we can do it all by ourselves. And as much as we can and as much as we want to, we got powerful entity that walks with us and talks with us every single day. And God's like,
Mm.
look, I know you hurting. I know this hurts. I know that these experiences weren't the greatest. And I know this person that you love did you wrong, but I'm
Mm.
here and I ain't going nowhere. So just knowing that, you have God that you can confide in is also one of those things that, is a big
Yep.
relief because,
Right.
we don't really have physical people that understand us the way that God can understand us. And that was something too along my journey that I had a hard time, you know, getting into. Like when it came to God, I
Yeah.
was always like my nana's Christian, my family's Christian. So it's one of those things where it's like God was always the Christian God. But then I
Mm.
had started to, develop my own relationship with God through my healing. And, it made my life a lot easier. Even when I pray, I'm like, God, I know you hear me. I'm coming to
Right.
you. I'm coming to
Right.
you with
The only way
everything.
I know how. Right. Right.
Right. Because
I
it's like,
love
at
it. I
some
love
point,
it.
you're not going to have your therapist on speed dial every 5 seconds. Your therapist got their own life, but God is always going to answer when you call.
Come on.
And that was something that gave me a lot of hope. And I know not everybody believes in God, but, I know it's a relationship that we all have to find for ourselves. I can't make you meet God. I can't show you exactly how to connect because we all have our own unique ways of connecting and aligning with God. And I think it's all about the journey in itself, because even with church and the Bible and all that, that didn't give me the relationship that I have with God now. So nobody can tell you how to connect with God. It's just something that, you usually can do it naturally. It's a natural experience in itself. So when it comes to your healing journey, um, how did you get there? How did you get to this point where you're like, okay, I'm about to heal? Was it a breaking point? Did you have a tower moment? You was like, I'm done with this shit? Or was it
Oh,
just, a moment where you were like, okay, like, let's see what this healing journey about? Did you even know about healing? Like, was that something that you even knew about?
that's the question right there. That'll throw me into it. All right. So I got thrown into the healing journey. I definitely got thrown into figuring out who I was. So there's a couple things that you said that I want to touch on, like
Hmm.
you being in a depressive state and not really knowing where it is to go. I've had a mentor that told me that's the best place to be. When you at that
Mm,
point, like I know people kind of look down on depression and stuff, but there's a lot to learn in depression. There's a lot because your body is saying to you like, yo, I'm not happy right here. I'm not
right.
happy with the circumstances. I'm not happy in this environment. Like something needs to change. And although like depression is looked down on or people kind of like side eye it, like I said, it holds a lot of information. And when I first went through my first spiritual, I guess, journey or whatever, how I started, I got thrown into, it was very much a tower moment where I had to let go of a person that was very, very close to me, like extremely close. And then I got to that point, like that's the point that you were at, and I was like, now what? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't have a sense of identity without this person. Like, I don't know who it is that I am. And I went through like kind of like a dark night of the soul where I wasn't
Mm,
doing anything. I was young. I was still living with my mom. I didn't have a job. I had nothing. And I would just like kind of stay in my room in the dark. And I remember when my mom is like, for context, my mom is a minister. Actually, you spoke about having a relationship with God. And so I grew up in the church, you know, so I
mm-hmm,
should know who to turn to and when I'm in this point of my life, right? But I didn't. Like I
mm-hmm,
really had no idea where to turn to. And I feel like spirit really came to me and was like, we're here if you need us. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not on no creepy stuff. I'm like, I felt a sense of support. And I'm trying to figure out like where did this come from? And in that tower moment, I was very like I pushed it away. Like I pushed away the support or pushed away the feeling of God because I had such a tumultuous relationship with the church. Like I never
mm-hmm,
really identified with the church as much as my mother's a minister dragged me to church. I mean, I was usher, I did the dance ministry, I did like all of this stuff, but I still didn't have a relationship with God. So as much as it should have been like, oh well, you know God, you know who to turn to in this moment, it wasn't that easy, it wasn't that
right.
simple until like you know one night I kind of just really felt I would say like the presence of God in spirit, and I was like crying really hard, and then I felt consoled almost, and like you said, I just started praying, like, and I didn't
Mm-hmm,
necessarily know how to pray or anything, but that's kind of how the communication with me in spirit started, where it's like we can help you, like you're on this journey, like you know I'm like we're gonna support you through it, but you gotta, like you said, surrender. It has to be a surrendering thing. Like, yeah, you had a low point in your life. Yeah, you at rock bottom, shorty. Like this is it. We had to take away that thing that you relied on so much, so that way we can introduce ourselves to you. So that way you can really have a relationship with God. And it was in that moment when I had absolutely nothing. I mean, like absolutely nothing. That's when I really met God, where I really met spirit and was able to say that, you know, I was uh I was I guess spiritual. I guess that's what you could say, or something like, because before I felt like it was just religious. Like you go to church, you sing the songs, you read the Bible, like that's religious. But to really dive into the relationship, to really be able to say, like, I have a relationship with God, I could talk to God, God listens, spirit responds to me, you know, like I can manifest things, that was something different. And it definitely started with everything being stripped away from me and just feeling lonely and feeling dark and feeling like there's no way out of this, where I finally was just like, you know what, all right, God, I could trust you. Let's see, like I've tried it my way before, but let me see where it is that you're trying to take me. And then in that, that's like, you know, how like out of nowhere I started researching the spiritual journey out of nowhere. I mean, like I just woke up one morning. I've never heard of anything like that. I just Googled it. Like, now I'm on YouTube. I was really into Infinite Waters, if anyone knows
Mm-hmm.
about
I
it.
love
Like
him.
nowhere. Like I'm just binging these videos, and I'm like, why, like where did this come from? Like I don't even know, like, that it was spirit leading me towards what it was that I was asking for, and I was asking for healing. So it was like through that I also learned about tarot and astrology, which is like kind of like a little hush hush thing a little bit, with like, being from a religious background, because like my mom is not like, that's black magic, that's evil, as
Right.
Christians would say it. So I would be like, watching tarot card readings in my room with the door locked underneath the covers. Like, I don't want nobody to know I'm
Peeking you
interested, but
like
my spirit, you feel me? Like with the volume all the way down. Like,
got the
I
subtitles
just
on.
this it's funny, but it's not funny. But yeah, like it was something that my spirit was called to. And I think a lot of people get the pull, if I'm really being honest. Like I think a lot of people get that, like, I'm interested in something else, or like my spirit is pulling me, but they might not be comfortable with it. They might
Right.
not be okay to really surrender and follow spirit, so that way they can start this journey. And it's something that, like you said, you got to be obedient for real. Like if I would have been like, no, there was a couple times where I was like, no, I shouldn't be, like, it was that old identity fighting with the new identity. That's what it was. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be doing this. But then my higher self was like, yeah, but we should be, like, we want to, like, I need you to know this information. So it's a matter of being open to the new path that you're on, and not shying away from it, because you know that at the end of the day, like, your higher self is never going to steer you wrong. Like I don't care
Right.
how you grew up or anything. Like if your spirit is called to something, it's not something that's like, hurting yourself or anyone else. It's very much worth, because if I would have never watched those Infinite Waters videos, I would not have learned about chakras. I would not have learned about higher self. I would not have learned about the spiritual journey, and I would still be in the dark. So I would say that
Mm-hmm.
anybody that's like, really starting or whatever, just go where your spirit is being called to, and with the openness, And if you
Right.
at a dark place, be at that dark place. It's okay. Like life is not about just pure happiness. It's really not. As much as no one wants to understand that, like you're gonna have you're gonna have things that happen to you, and it's up to you if you want to use it so that way you can be a better person, or you're gonna make it, keep you in that dark place. You always have a choice. And I chose to lean in to spirit, to God. So yeah, that's how that happened. And I'm glad it happened. Like if I had to do it all over again, if I was to reincarnate, please don't make me reincarnate. But if I was to reincarnate, I would
Please.
do it the same way. Because like I like where I'm at, like I
Mm-hmm.
like who it is that I am and that I'm still becoming. So just lean in, y'all. If y'all listening,
Yeah.
I see y'all joining IG, just lean in. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
worth it.
It really is. And it pays off in the
It,
end because, not only are you
mhm.
healing you finna be healing your descendants, your ancestors. Like,
Come on.
it's one of those things where it really does, it's just more than you, it's bigger than you at that point. The children that you bring into this world, or the children that you help raise, you have an effect on them. And your healing is going to reflect in the way that you connect with the people around you. Because I know for me, I've impacted so many people, but sometimes I don't feel that way. Sometimes I'm just like, well, i'm just
Yep.
i'm just being me at that point. I'm just
Right.
being
Oh my
myself.
God.
Like, how am I
Just
impacting
me.
17,000 people? I do not know, but they rocking with me, so
But
I'm
you
gonna keep
do.
providing the
Right.
insight and the whatever it is that I can. But it's one of those things where it's rewarding because it's not that you're being paid, but it's the fulfillment that you experience through the healing. Um, I don't know why I keep coughing, but
You need some,
probably
you need
this
some
fan.
water.
I
Yeah.
know, right? I'm like, I ain't got no water near me at all, at
That's why I'm
all.
scared. I was a little nervous. I didn't want to get the dry mouth.
Look,
So
I'm over here getting it. I'm like, where's the water ready? Got any water in here? I'm gonna text my mom, but can you bring me a
definitely,
water?
definitely.
But yeah, I feel like,
Please,
it really
right?
does show up in the people that you help and the people that, you connect with.
Yeah.
And that's why this is one of those things where I'm just like, I'm grateful because I have reached a place where I've start to feel better about those bad days than I did in the past, because I have one bad day back in 2015. I'm having bad days all year long. Like, it got to a point where it was like,
Right.
well, I'm just sad. That's just where I'm at. I'm just sad and depressed.
Right.
And I didn't know that I could be outside of that too. I didn't know I could have that balance. I could go back and forth. I didn't have to stay in this dark space if I didn't want
Right.
to.
It's always a
Um,
choice. Yeah, it's always a choice.
Facts, facts. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, so we just depressed? Like, is that what we are? I'm thinking that that's all that there is to my life. And, I
Right.
realized that, you don't have to keep living in that. So I have people that have known me my entire life. Like my godmom one time, she told me, she's like, you have just changed so much. And she just like saw how
Mhm.
I was into tarot and stuff. And it just shocked the shit out of her, because everybody saw me as this like quiet girl, like to
Right.
herself, nobody knows what she got going on,
Right.
what she
Right.
thinking about. And you
Listen.
move into that space where you're not that person anymore. You done changed the ways, you're doing something that makes you happy. People are going to see the change. People gonna see it. And "Oh, what's your secret? How did you do this?" Like, by the grace of God, honestly, because
Hello.
there'll be
Right.
times where I'll be like, I don't even know how I made it to this point. Like, I don't know what it was that kept me going, because I was super depressed, super suicidal. So it was one of those things where it was kind of like, I don't want to be here no more. I hate this place. Like, always something negative. Everybody don't like no, nobody likes me. Like, it was one of those things where I hated being here because I felt that I held no purpose. But if I could have 13, 14-year-old me look at where I'm at right now, she'd be like, "Oh, okay, well,
Mm.
we got something
You be like, I
to,
like her. Yeah, I
yeah,
like
we got
her.
something to live
Nice. And
for."
that's what
Because,
you do.
when I was younger, I was like, I want to be
Word.
a therapist. I want to help people with their problems, da 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 da. And I'm like, girl,
Uh,
look at you. You're in school, ready to get your degree so that you can help people, so you can hold space for those around you. And I love that because, sometimes we're so lost in the darkness that we don't see what's outside of that. Had I known in high school that I was going to be the person that I am today, I would have took the extra steps to make be where I'm at now easier. But we don't know what's to come. We don't know what God's got planned for us. And I think that's why it's so important to just keep going. Like, please do not give up on yourselves. And I know it's so easy to want to do that and to escape. And to resort to, substance abuse or resort to sex or whatever, just because it's easy to forget what you're going through. But remembering ain't so bad either. It's not so bad. And it
right.
really gives you a space to unpack the stuff that bothers you and talk about the shit that makes you mad or the things that make you sad. So that you know yourself a little bit better. Now you know what irks you, so you can stay away from stuff like that. You know what
Right.
makes you emotional, so now you know how to approach yourself when you are sad. Um, and I think that, the journey in itself has just been so beautiful, and I've met so many great people, and I've been able to, really do a lot for myself and for those around me, not knowing that this was the life that God had intended for me, not knowing that this was going to put me in a space where, I'm bringing in just all of this energy that I didn't even know I had access to, so it's not impossible. I think the limitations that we place on ourselves make our lives harder. So that's why I
Mhm.
learned not to limit myself. I'm like, no, we limitless. We can do it. We can do whatever we set our minds to. And that's such a cliche saying because we hear it all the time, but it's the truth. It's the
True
truth. As
though.
much as we don't
Yeah.
want to hear it, it's a fact. Our minds hold so much power. So make sure that you are utilizing your mind as a tool and resource as well, especially if you ain't got nothing outside of you. You got your mind.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's where I learned to like reprogram my subconscious and start thinking a little bit differently than I was, because I used to always like, just start saying stuff. And I realized I'm like, your tongue is powerful, girl. You better be careful with what you're saying,
Mhm.
because you're gonna
Listen,
speak yourself into a curse. So it's
come
one of those
on.
things where, you learn so much through your healing journey, things that no one taught you. You didn't learn it in school. I wish we learned about healing in school. I feel like that would have been such a
It'd be
big
powerful.
piece, a
It
big
would be too
piece.
powerful
I know,
if
right?
we equipped with those type of things from jump, can you imagine where we be at right now if they taught that
Right.
in the school, if they taught
Facts.
emotional intelligence in the school? Can you imagine? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think they not ready.
They don't want that. They
They
don't, they
don't
don't want us
they
knowing
don't
our power and our worth, which is fucked up. But you
especially
know,
if we talking about us, yeah, nah, because
yeah,
it
they
could get
definitely not
real
doing
out
that.
here.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, nope, please. Keep shoving the Bible down their throats. Please, let's keep
With
shoving
no
these things
type of
down their throats.
context, I feel
Yeah.
like, I'm just gonna say, like, I feel like with religion, it's very much like, let me keep you in line, like let
Mm-hmm.
me give you this stuff to keep you in line. And then with spirituality, and I think that's why some people call it demonic, it's because it's freeing. It's really giving
Right.
you the power. Like it's not saying that some white man in the sky is looking down at you and saying, yeah, do this, don't do that. If you don't do this, you're gonna go to hell. It's really
Right.
giving yourself accountability. And if we're being honest, like a lot of people are not equipped for that type of accountability, or that they're not comfortable with it to say
Right.
like you said, it's all the power's in your hands. If you want to move
Mm-hmm.
from a place, you have you can do that. You have the agency to do that. But a
Facts.
lot of people would rather just be like, oh, I'm gonna just pray to God and let God do. I'm gonna just pray to God and wait. But you gotta put some action behind it. Like God will
Right.
give you a vision. God will be like, okay, yeah, you can go further. And you gotta be like, all right, cool. So I'm gonna do more. Like I'm gonna really
Mm-hmm.
jump into what I want to do. And like you said, I think like when you do it, like when you're the person that does it around people that haven't yet and you're inspiring them, they get a little confused because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing? They get confused. It's like, how did she do that? Like, where did she get that information from? And it's like,
Yeah.
I really just took the power into my own hands. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
did my research, did my healing. I prayed to God. I listened to to the guidance that I was given, and I changed. Like, I turned myself into the person that I wanted to be. It's that easy. Like, I mean, it ain't easy. I ain't gonna say it's easy, but but it is like essentially like it's that
Yeah.
easy. You can do it for yourself. You just have to believe that you can do it for yourself and
Right.
believe that you have that support, like how we were speaking about earlier. Like spirit wants you to succeed. Spirit wants you to have your goals and your dreams and stuff, but you have to be able to really just like be like, okay, yeah, like let me do it. Like put one foot in front of the other and do it. And it's possible, it's
Right.
possible.
It is. It is.
Sure.
And people scared. We're scared. It's like you don't know what's on the other side of that. You just like, oh, I
And
don't
it becomes
know.
intimidating. I've noticed that like
Yeah.
people get intimidated because it's like, how did you do that? Like it wasn't easy. It wasn't
Right.
easy,
Really,
but
it
I
might look
did.
like it. Might look like
Right.
I got it all figured out, but I promise you, I'm still figuring shit out. And I don't know if I'm
Still
gonna ever have it figured out, but we just gonna keep figuring shit out because I'd rather be in a space where I'm constantly finding solutions than solely focusing on the problem all the time, you know?
definitely,
It's a
definitely,
relief. And I love that
definitely.
you had brought up, people praying to God and expecting God to just come through and fix it. It's like God done already met us halfway. God's
Come
like, look, I'm,
on.
I'm gonna meet you halfway. I'm gonna need you to get here to where I'm at.
Right.
Meet me here at this spot at 5:30. No, but meet me
Right.
here.
Right.
And when we
Inspired
meet here, I'm gonna
action.
take you the rest of the way. And then we're just like, but God, I don't know. Like we,
Right.
we start to feel like we don't know what to do, but it's like, that relationship that you build is so important because, the relationship shouldn't be about, oh, help me out of this problem because, that's not going to fulfill you because now you just need somebody to, fix your problems and, not that just to have that relationship for what it is. And what it can be because it can be more than just, hey, help me, I need help. And it can be more than that. And that's something that I didn't realize because, within my family, it was always, call on God if you're sick, call on
Mhm.
God if you're this, call on God if you're that. If you're struggling with your money, call on God. So
Right.
that's how I thought the relationship was supposed to work. I'm thinking, oh, God just here to fix my problems. Like, but no, God became my therapist at one point. I had to communicate and connect with God because I didn't know who else to go to, having a therapist. It's like, yeah, I meet with my therapist once out of the week. So
Right.
knowing that I could pray every single night and get some shit off my chest and be like, God, look, today was not it. I don't know how you designed this and what you double, like God has become my friend at this point, and I think that's the best type of relationship to have with God is to not look at it as if God is, above you or beneath
Right.
you or whatever, but God is right here with
Within
you.
you, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
All the time. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
So
just like any
important.
other relationship too. Like I feel like you said, like people make the concept of God like such a big thing that
Mm-hmm.
they like fail to realize it's a relationship like any other relationship that you
Mm-hmm.
have. you talk to God, you believe in God, you allow God to support you. Like it's really a relationship. And if you're not open to it, you won't really be able to see or feel I guess, the power of God.
Mm-hmm.
If you're constantly just like, well, God has to do for me, God has to do for me and stuff. But like, what you doing for God? Like, are you being obedient to what God needs you to do for the sake of other people? Like, it's not always gonna be fun to be obedient and to really trust God, because like you said, sometimes it's like you don't have the support, and like people
Right.
don't know what it is that you're doing, they don't understand it. It can feel isolating sometimes, but when you're obedient, like you said, God is going to meet you halfway. Like you feel me? And then the things that you have wanted to do automatically just start unfolding in front of you, just like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, like how did we get
Yeah,
here? Because I was obedient, because I listened to God, because I took the first
exactly.
step, because I believed in the vision. Like it's really like it's a back and forth with you and God. It's not just like, here, take my problems, fix it.
Right.
It's just like, okay, you've given me your problems. Now I'm gonna give you a solution. Are you willing to take that step towards a solution, or you want to sit here and wallow in whatever it is? Like, it's always
Right.
a choice. And you have to really be able. I'm honest with God. When I have conversations, when I pray, I'm like, listen, God, look, I'm going through a lot right now. I'm really tired. Like, I don't want to deal with these people. Like,
Right.
you know who I am. I need you to do something. And then I feel like God be like, all right, here's another option. And it's like, are you willing to do this? Like, are you willing to do it or not? And
Right.
yeah, you got to really take it as the same way. Like, if your significant other was just like, okay, well, we got to fix this problem, what you willing to do? Like, it's not just me. I can't fix
Right.
the issue. It got to be me and you. So that's how I like to try to think about it. When you have a relationship with God or spirit, the universe, whatever, it's a give and take. It's
Right.
not just a you type thing. So
Exactly.
I think a
Yeah.
lot of people got to keep that in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. I feel like the more we connect with ourselves, it makes it easier to connect with God. Because I know for me, I had to find God through me. I didn't use a book. I
Mhm,
didn't use like it was one of those things where it just happens.
mhm,
It just happens to you. And then you go from
mhm.
there. Because I know for me, our situation is kind of similar where, we were feeling emotional at the time, don't really
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
what to do, who to turn to, but just feeling the presence, honestly makes me think of that song, The Presence of the Lord is here.
Right, right. Come on, praise and worship.
Come
Come
on.
on.
But yes, it's one of those things where it's like, you have to get to know yourself first. Honestly, I met God
Mhm.
through meeting myself. So it's really all
Right,
about the
come on.
breakthroughs that, you go through because, it's internal. Like we are our body's the temple, and we usually just look at our bodies as flesh, and but our body is holding space for God to connect through us and work through us and all of that. Like they say, God is everywhere, and that's something that I've took, and I've always like, because I remember at one point I was atheist and I was like, I don't believe in anything, because I was just kind of like in that space where I'm like, well, God don't exist because all this bad shit's happening in the world. Like, where's God at to come save the day?
Right.
But God gave us free will. So everything that we doing as human beings is just coming
Mhm.
back out, into the physical. So, I didn't understand that at the time. I just kind of saw it like he done designed hell and this is where we at. Like that's what I'm thinking. And I just kind of decided to pull away from the religious beliefs and, thinking that, God is the savior, good Jesus and all that. I just had to like put that out of my head for a second because it made my life harder. And I didn't understand anything growing up because the way that it's being given to me is through this construct of you must obey, you must do this, you must do that. So I'm rebelling, like you telling me to do it, I don't want to do it
Right.
now. Like I don't even want to do it no more. So when I did go through that process, I just started to see more things about like the world and nature and all that, and I'm like, okay, like this is something, this makes some sense to me, like just
Right.
being out in nature, connecting with the trees and things like that. And then I just remember like having that breakdown and I'm like, look, I don't know what I'm here to do, who I am. I
Right.
don't know what, but God, I need you. I need you. I need you. If you're real and you can hear me, just hear my calls, hear my cries. Because it's like we reached that point of no return and we don't really know. It's like our backs against the wall. What are we gonna do right here? We gonna run, we gonna stay right here, be still and let whatever happens happen. But for me, it's really just all about surrendering. Like, ain't no running, ain't no stopping. We just gonna sit here and go within, so that we can understand and address what's going on inside of us, so that our outside don't reflect this chaos that's taking place within us. So then I just stopped, following certain people on Instagram, social media, and started to follow more, spiritual pages. So that's such a big thing too, is, what you're looking at, what you're feeding your mind, because what you're feeding your mind is what you're telling yourself. You telling yourself like, oh, we're going to live out these experiences and, things like that. So I started to follow more spiritual pages and started to learn more about healing. I love that you mentioned Infinite Waters. I didn't get into Infinite Waters until
I did deep.
2019. And it was one of those things where I was like, I don't really know if I like him. I'm like, he's too happy. Like, there's
Yeah.
no way this man is
Right. He's so happy, like in the middle of nowhere,
like,
just
where's
around
he at? He
trees.
out
Like,
here
what's up with you,
at? Like,
right?
I'll never see him in the
Eating
house.
grapes.
But see, I was watching Young
Oh my
Pharaoh,
God.
and that was somebody that like
Mm.
his aggression, like I guess that's like something that I saw within myself, was that aggression because of how angry I was at the time. And I gravitated more towards him. And watched his videos. So instead of watching Infinite Waters, I was like, I'm gonna watch Young Pharaoh because he just had a way of talking that like I got the grit, I felt it. Whereas Infinite Waters, I'm like, I don't know about him. He's too smiling, and like I just kind of prejudged him based off of that. When that was where I was in my life, I was in that place in my life where I'm angry, still holding on to this anger and all this. So I'm watching people that are yelling at the camera like, "You need to be doing this." Da, 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 da. I'm listening to them. I'm like, okay, yes, I got it. I receive what you're
Yes,
saying.
I can rock with this. Right.
And then when I got
Yes,
into
yes.
Infinite Waters, it chilled me out a little bit. Like it's like I watch his videos and everything that I was worried about is just gone. Like I just meditated watching his videos or something. But I loved him, and he's just one of those people that I didn't understand because I wasn't ready to understand where he was at because I wasn't there yet. I wasn't in that space
It's
to
a
listen to what he had to
journey.
say. And that's the
Yes.
beautiful thing about our spiritual journey, is that as we peel back these layers of who we are and who we were, we start to align with certain people. And it makes me think now, like, how there will be people where everybody likes them and then you don't like them. Like sometimes it's because of something in us that, is
Oh,
keeping us from connecting, or it's our spirit telling us stay away. But, sometimes it's like, I've noticed like there's certain people that I don't relate to because they may be in different space than I am, whereas I get to that space now, I get where they're coming from. Now I see why they was like that or why they was talking like that. Like sometimes we prejudge people based off of our own internal, misconceptions, but it takes time to heal and unravel the things about yourself so that you can understand those around you a little bit better too. So that was one of the things for me when I started doing shadow work. I started to see people's shadows. I was like, yep, they got abandonment wounds.
what
Like,
I'm
yep.
saying. That's why when people talk about like jumping into shadow work, I'm like, are
Mm-hmm.
you sure that's what you
Yeah.
want to do? That's not no easy feat. That's not something that's just gonna be like a walk in the park. It's not. You're gonna be in it for a while and you're gonna start
Mm-hmm.
seeing things that you're probably not equipped or ready to see. And then once you see it, baby, it's no going back. You can't take them glasses off. That's it, they
Right.
on. So people be like, yeah, I'm gonna do my shadow work, and that's gonna be the end of my spiritual journey. Good luck. Like seriously, good luck to you
Not
with
the
that
end,
because
baby. This is the
it's something
beginning.
that you have to just to begin, you ain't even scratch the surface if you're talking about shadow work. And then it's going to
Right.
keep being different levels of shadow work as well. And when you
Mm-hmm.
get to that point, like you said about being able to see other people's traumas and stuff, it doesn't become easier because
Right.
if you're any like I consider myself an empath. So when I see people's problems in front of them, I feel you. You feel me? Because
Right.
8 times out of 10, I was probably there at some point in my life anyway. And now I want to quote unquote fix you. Now I want to help you, get out of that. But not everybody is always ready, and not everybody can see what you see. And that's the
Right.
most, if someone else has not done their shadow work, you will be able to see their shadows and they can't see it. So you
Mm-hmm.
can't do nothing for that person because, like you said, they're not there yet. They might
Yeah.
be here, and not to place anyone beneath you, but you could be seeing, like you standing on a stool, you're seeing past, and they're still down here looking at the wall. You understand? So it's
Right.
like it gets frustrating. And then
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're in relationships, if we talking about family and you're able to
Come
see these
on.
karmic cycles that they're in,
Yes.
and then you just like you can't see what's going on? Like you can't see that you stuck. Like all you got to
Yeah.
do is make another decision, but they don't see it. Like
Mm-hmm.
they can't because they have not reached that point. They haven't done the work. And I
Right.
just made a video on TikTok about like I don't care how much you love somebody. I don't care how close you are. If that person is not willing to do the work, you can't make them. And you
Right.
can't stay and try to, spoon feed them or like you what is it? The you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You cannot
Mm-hmm.
make if they're not willing to do it, you can't do it. Can you be an inspiration by working on yourself, by getting yourself out of karmic cycles, by, starting new cycles in your life? Of course. But then
Yeah.
it's up to them to be able to be like, all right, I want to do that too. Some people are
Mm-hmm.
100% okay with being who they are, where they're at, and they're going to be okay with that for the rest of their life. But if you're saying to yourself, I want to make a change, make the change. And you can't be
Right.
upset that they don't make the change. That's their life that they're choosing to live.
Mm-hmm.
So be it like, yo, oh man, I girl, I can't even when it came down to the shadow work aspect, like I remember I was up I couldn't sleep when I started doing shadow work. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was in my dreams, like like the things that I was unearthing was in my dreams. And I was just like, how did I not see that before? Oh wow, like this is like especially dealing with parent and parental issues and
Right.
things, like finally seeing my parents for people and not
Mm-hmm.
my parents. That's a level of shadow work that a lot of people are not able to really accept. Like
Right.
all you want to say is, oh, they hurt me, my mom hurt me, my dad did this to me or whatever. But when you're finally able to see their demons and why they
Yep.
got to that point, it's not always easy. Sometimes it's harder because you just
Yep.
like, why couldn't they heal for me? Because they didn't want to. I don't
Right.
care if you're their child or not. They couldn't deal with it. And you gotta let
Mm-hmm.
go of, like you said earlier, you got to let go of their baggage. Give them people back their baggage.
It's
Like, I'm
facts.
not going to carry this for the rest of my life. Like, that's on you. That's on you. And that's a big part of shadow work as well. Releasing,
Yeah.
cleansing, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
going through your Instagram and unfollowing people that no longer resonate with you, following people that do,
Right.
feeding your spirit with better, with I hate using high vibrational, low vibrational, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like high
I get what you
vibrational
mean.
things. But you gotta take the step up. Like you can't just
Mm-hmm.
stay at one point expect you. No, you got to take the step up. And even if people around you are not stepping up, you got to do it. If you got to leave some people behind, God always replaces anything that you have to let go of with something better. And I believe that to the depths of my. I'm a person. I'll walk away from anything. I do not at this point. At
Literally.
today,
Come
I walk
on.
away. If God says it's time to go, I'll see
Okay.
y'all later. I love
Right. Ain't no more
y'all.
talking.
This was fun. But God got something better for me. So I gotta
Right.
I gotta peace out. Nothing personal, but
Right.
I know that it's time for me to take the next step. And if you get to the point and you're the one that's going to take the next step before the people around you that you love, do it anyway. It's not
Mm-hmm.
gonna feel comfortable, it's gonna feel lonely, but you might inspire them to take the next step. You might be lonely for a minute,
Yeah.
but after a while, if they really about it, they see the change, they're gonna meet you up there. You feel me?
No,
And even
for
if they
real.
don't, you gotta be okay with that. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when you had talked about like family, like that's one of the things that like hurt me to my core because
Mm,
something about me, I have this savior complex where I'm like, I know the problem and here's the solution. I could just pitch the solution, but I'm like, Ashanti, you can't do it. You
yeah.
can't do it. If they don't want it for themselves, you cannot fix them. You cannot make them better. They have to want that for themselves. And even if you feel like you know what's best for them, sometimes you don't know what's best for them. Sometimes you don't know what it's really going to take for them to see their fuck up, see what they need to focus on to heal. So that was something for me where it was always hard because I could see what was going on in my family and like, who's doing this, who's doing that. But I had to make sure that I wasn't taking on that responsibility for them because it was not my responsibility. It was something that held me back because I always felt like I could fix people or I could make people's lives easier because I made my life easier. But I couldn't do it. And that's something that I had to be real with myself about because, the more you try to take on everybody else's responsibilities, the more miserable you become. So, this
Mm,
is just a testament to those out there watching. Please make sure that, as you're healing and as you're focusing on yourself and you're bettering yourself, it is not your job to make everybody else's life easier. It's not. You do what you got to do for you and that's all you can do. Everybody's going to see your change. And some people may ask you, like, hey, like, I see you've been changing. I see you've been doing better for yourself. How did you do this? Some people will come to you with that. Some people will not, because a lot of people are, that makes them uncomfortable. Seeing you change like that, seeing you better yourself, it makes people uncomfortable. So there are going to be people out here that, want your help, but some people just don't need your help and aren't asking for your help. And that was the biggest thing for me. I'm like, they are not asking you to sit here and dissect their problem. Like, yes. And I had to do that with myself because, I've always been such a giving person. I've always been so loving and I've always wanted to support people in all the ways that I could. But, Spirit told me until somebody comes to you and asks you for help, don't try to overextend yourself
No,
when it's not needed.
that's so
And that's why shadow work is important because it takes that level of honesty to, undo a lot of things that you do. So for me, that's why I love shadow work now, because it's like this is just my time to be real with myself
right.
because, I used to just I used to be so I used to be my own enabler. You know what I'm saying? I used to enable my own shit. Like, oh yeah, you could smoke a little weed. It's
Right.
okay. You could do a little drinking. Oh, have sex. It's
Right.
okay. Like I'm escaping. Like, girl, you trying to escape. Like you ain't trying to heal. You trying to escape. You put a band-aid on a gunshot wound and think that
Talk
that,
about it.
that it's gonna heal properly. Like, no, girl, if you don't take that shit out that's hurting you and actually aid and attend to this the way that it needs to be attended to, it makes me want to do some shadow work tonight. I'm like, I need to do some shadow work tonight. Have my
Girl, you
music
good.
playing and do my thing.
Right. Set the
Because
mood,
it's one of those things where it's so necessary. And I think the more that we are honest with ourselves and really do hold that space for ourselves, it gives us more room to grow, because a lot of us, we live in this box and we live in this little fishbowl. And I love there's a post that's like, with sharks, they grow within their environment. So if you put a shark in a fish tank, it's only going to grow up to the size of the fish tank. Whereas if you drop a shark in the ocean, it's going to grow to its maximum capacity because there's no limitation. And I love that. And that's something that stuck with me. That post stuck with me. And then there's a post about like a snake, something about a snake or something like that. I think it was, oh yeah, it was like a snake was wrapped around like a razor or something like that. So they like slid past the razor cut it. So now the snake's trying to wrap itself around this razor, but in the process, it's hurting itself. So that was one of those posts that taught me that, just because something hurts you doesn't mean that you have to try your hardest to make it feel the
Right.
same way that you felt, because that's only going to hurt you. Like I realized, like the people that hurt me, they don't give a fuck about what they did to me. They don't care that they hurt me or that they made me depressed or that made me, upset or frustrated or angry or whatever. They don't give a fuck. So for me to try and go back and get revenge and hurt them the way that they hurt me, it's not going to equate. You know what I'm saying? It's probably going to feel like a little buzz, to them. It ain't gonna
Right.
be as intense as it was for me. And that's why that post really sits with me, because I'd be like, damn, like, you really think that, holding on to whatever hurts you is going to make you feel better, but it does nothing but hurt you even more in the process. And that's why I had to learn to just let that shit go sometimes. And I say sometimes because sometimes that should be valid. And if you got to
Yo,
hold on to it a little bit longer so that you can
feel
just
you, man.
feel, then feel.
Yeah.
But eventually you'll let it go, especially if you're allowing yourself to feel that pain, because there's still things that I'm in therapy talking about. I'm like, therapist, look, it done came back up, so we're gonna have to talk about it. I'm like, we're gonna have to talk about this person again because it done came up again in my dreams. Let's go ahead and have the conversation, because sometimes we're not always over a situation. We may talk about it, we may cry about it, but sometimes we're not over it. And that's why it takes these conversations. It takes journaling, it takes venting or whatever it is that you need to do so that you can get the emotions out that you have been holding on to. um so yeah, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining me
Girl,
today.
thank you for having me. Yo, this was dope. I
I
love it. I
love
love it.
it.
It's giving soul tribe. That's what it's giving. And it's
I
crazy
love that.
because my affirmation for Libra season was I vibe high. What is it? I'm a high vibrational being and I attract other like-minded individuals, right?
Oh,
And then like it was like I think a week later that I seen your post about like joining the podcast. And then like as we're talking and we're having conversation, I'm like, yo, like not we on the same journey, like not we on the same plane, even down to like being a quiet person and like not really finding your voice until you found like
right.
just like the resonation is crazy, the
I
resonance is,
love
is
it.
crazy, but I appreciate it because it's able
Yeah.
to allow me to see myself in a different type of way as well. And like we said at the beginning, like feeling like you got support. You're not alone. You're not the only
Mm-hmm.
person that has dealt with this, and you're not the only person that is going through. And there's other people, and you can
Right.
lean on other people. You know, so Bird, I appreciate it. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
this
This
was
was amazing.
great. I love it. And I'm like, I got another week or two with episodes, but after all that's over, if you want to pop in again, we could do another shadow work talk, maybe like a shadow workshop
Yeah,
or something, to really give
I'm
people the
with it.
rundown. Because I feel like shadow work is its own episode. Like
Hmm.
we could go
That's
so
that's
far, so deep into that topic because it really is, it's a lot. It's a lot.
it is, and a
Hey,
lot of people don't have the tools to dive into it the way that,
right,
a person who has done it will be able to like really,
exactly.
give you the tools to do so. But so, yo, girl, let me know.
Got
I'll
you.
come with PowerPoints at that
Look,
point. If you want me to
she's
do the
like, look, I
slides,
done got it all wrote out.
I'll do some shadow work PowerPoints if you want me to for fact. But
Yes,
I appreciate you so
I
much. Thank you
appreciate
for the people that
you. This has
stuck in
motivated
there.
me. I'm like, after this, I'm about to get my journal. I'm about to play some R&B, and I'm about to get in my feelings.
I'm gonna join you. Not for real, I'm gonna join you on that. I'm gonna journal tonight. We did unpack a lot of stuff. I'm gonna
Yeah,
join you on
definitely.
shadow work tonight. And like I feel like a shark that's just been placed in the ocean. I'm finally out of my
Yes.
little tank. I'm able to, this was out of my comfort zone. So I'm glad that I did it. And I'm trying to expand, so we out here.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yes. Well, thank you again. You have an amazing rest of your night. Enjoy your journaling
Likewise.
and your shadow working.
You too.
And shout out to the people that joined us. Thank y'all so much for pulling up. If you guys are watching or listening to this, and it ain't live, thank y'all for tuning in. I'm the Sacral Empress signing out. Thank you again, Leena. I appreciate you. Don't forget to hydrate, meditate, y'all, and I'll see y'all next time.
Yes.